Now, less than a decade ago, the then Prime Minister David Cameron trumpeted a golden era in Britain's relations with China. Boris Johnson viewed the country as a systemic competitor before Liz Truss upped the ante, deeming Beijing an outright threat. Today, her successor, Rishi Sunak, said it was sensible to engage, after all, with the UK's fourth largest trading partner. The Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, meeting senior officials in Beijing, paving the way for a possible meeting between Mr Sunak and President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit next week. But some MPs are incandescent that the UK appears to be cozying up to China amid concerns about human rights, Taiwan's sovereignty and Beijing's support for Vladimir Putin. The former Conservative leader, Sir Ian Duncan Smith, is sanctioned by China. Cathy spoke to him earlier and asked if he thought the government had taken the wrong approach.
Well, I think simplifying it like that shows how little there is in this whole plan. Already the government has weakened our own China policy from where it was. After all, Rishi Sunak got elected on the basis that China was a systemic threat. And now that's been watered down to an epoch-defining challenge, which we'll meet, apparently. This is almost like Sir Humphrey, really, isn't it? With robust pragmatism. So you can already see, and the Chinese know that the government seems desperate not to upset them and has weakened its stance at the time when China's abuses are growing. And yet we seem to want this visit for a way to say to them that we're not going to isolate them. The truth is they will understand the fact that businesses start moving out, not if you spend your time on bended knee to them.
So that you think that's what's going on? They're on bended knee because China is the world's second largest economy and the UK has made the economic decision that it can't afford not to cosy up to China.
Well, I think this is a mistake. I think the fact is that America, when Blinken visited, it was on the back of a series of very significant criticisms and changes in economic policy. So you saw Apple moving out of China, you saw the banning of microprocessor work, the sanctioning of people in Xinjiang. Now, all of that came before he visited. Now, my point is that we seem to really follow a policy of not trying to get tit for tat or upsetting the Chinese. And the Chinese see that as weakness on our part. So when Cleverly goes over there, no doubt he'll say something about their human rights problems, etc., but they'll sit stony-faced.
You sound pretty angry about all of this. I wonder how it's come to this, that, you know, your party has been all over the place on China. How has it come to this?
I have no idea. I'm sanctioned by the Chinese government. My whole family are sanctioned by the Chinese government. I'm one of 7 politicians. And we have wolf warriors following us. We have our sites attacked as I'm called them out. And my organization, Interparliamentary Alliance for China, now 30 countries involved from Japan to America, we have been acting to try and get politicians to make sure they understand the threat that China poses.
Just finally, there may perhaps be one reason to talk to China, and that's because China is talking to Russia and Putin is supposedly going to visit Beijing in the next few months. Is that a reason that we might be able to have some influence on the course of the war in Ukraine?
China's never condemned Russia, and we talk about getting China on side, but so far, not a single movement from China on this. In fact, quite the opposite. There is pretty strong growing evidence now of weaponry and ammunition getting to Russia, coming via China. And there's also very clear evidence now about refined Russian oil, rebadged, ending up in China, bought by China using yuan, not dollars. China is playing a double game with everybody. China says that they are keen to see the end of the war, but never actually calls on Russia to stop.
So, Ian Duncan Smith, thanks very much.
Pleasure.